Hello everyone, my name Emily Carter, I am 28, and I never thought I would be the person sitting down to write something like this. My relationship with my father has not always been easy, but I never imagined it would reach the point where I feel more like an unwanted stranger than his own daughter. My parents divorced when I was 13, and the lines were drawn almost immediately. My mom, who is one of the strongest people I know, worked herself into the ground trying to make sure my younger brother Tyler and I were taken care of. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3 if you counted the odd weekend side hustle, and she never once complained when it meant missing sleep so we could have school supplies or groceries that stretched just a little further. My dad remarried 2 years later. He was 52 at the time and had met Karen, who was 46 then. She had 2 kids from a previous marriage, Maddie, who is now 21, and Cole, who is 18. From the very beginning it was obvious to me that my dad liked the ready-made family image that Karen's kids provided. Maddie and Cole were treated like royalty. Maddie got a brand new $26,000 Jeep the second she had her license in hand. Cole wore $300 sneakers like they were nothing special. Meanwhile, I was piecing together scholarships and double shifts just to stay in college. The painful part was not just the financial inequality, it was how emotionally absent my dad became. I could feel him looking at me and seeing my mom instead of his daughter. Still, I swallowed the bitterness for years. I played the part of the dutiful daughter who did not cause waves. When my mom's car broke down and she could not afford the repair, I sent money even though I was barely making rent myself. When Tyler needed new textbooks for school, I quietly paid for them out of my waitressing tips. And through all of this my dad never noticed. Or if he did, he never acknowledged it. Fast forward to this spring. I finally had a stable job with a decent salary. For the first time in my adult life I could breathe a little. No more choosing between fixing the brakes on my Corolla and paying the utility bill. I had started saving slowly but surely, and I wanted to do something meaningful. My dad's wedding to Karen was approaching, and even though I was not close with her, I convinced myself that this was my chance to prove I was part of the family too. I told myself if I show them generosity, maybe they will see me as more than just the leftover baggage from my dad's first marriage. So I went all out. I spent months planning and choosing gifts. I ordered a full dining set worth $4,000, a customized wine cooler along with a stock seller subscription for a year that totaled $3,600, an outdoor furniture set that cost $5,500, engraved watches for both of them at $2,000, spa retreats, and even a handmade quilt that cost $800 because I wanted something sentimental to balance out the luxury. The total was about $18,000. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I wanted to prove I belonged and I sacrificed to do it. I cut back on vacation, said no to upgrading my car even though it rattled every time I drove over 40, and kept telling myself it would all be worth it when they realized how much I cared. Then came the gut punch. The invitations went out and mine never came. At first I thought it was a mistake, that maybe it got lost in the mail. I waited, and when nothing showed up I finally texted my dad. His response was like ice water down my spine. He wrote, "We don't think you'll fit in with our new family dynamic. It's nothing personal, but it would be best if you sat this one out." That phrase, new family, seared into my chest. Maddie and Cole were in the wedding party. Tyler got an invite. Even Karen's distant cousins were on the list. But me? The daughter who spent years scraping by, who still reached into her empty pockets to help when no one else did. I was cut out because I did not fit in. I stared at that text for a long time. I could not even cry at first, I just felt numb. Then I got angry. I refused to play along with their narrative anymore. I called every vendor and canceled every single gift order. A few of them charged cancellation fees, but I did not care. Out of the $18,000, I recovered $17,200. I immediately took $10,000 of that and opened a high-yield savings account for a condo down payment. The rest I funneled into what I now call my Emily-only account, money meant solely for my travel and emergencies. When the wedding day rolled around, I was not there. Instead, I went with my mom to a cabin in Hocking Hills. We sat on the porch with a cheap bottle of wine, watched the sun go down, and laughed about how ridiculous the whole thing was. It felt freeing in a way, like I was no longer begging to be accepted by people who never wanted me in the first place. I thought that was the end of it. But then this morning happened. I woke up to my phone buzzing non-stop. 30 missed calls, a flood of texts from my dad saying things like, "We need to talk," and "You ruined our wedding." Apparently Karen had been bragging to her friends for months about her amazing future stepdaughter and all the luxury gifts she was supposedly getting. So when the big day arrived and there was nothing, she looked like a fool in front of her family and friends. My dad left a voicemail that was just yelling, accusing me of embarrassing him and humiliating Karen in front of her entire extended family. I listened to the beginning of one message, rolled my eyes, and then decided enough was enough. I just turned the volume down and kept sipping my coffee. The storm did not fade after the wedding weekend. If anything, it grew louder, like everyone suddenly decided my canceled gifts were the scandal of the year. I woke up one morning to a notification from Instagram and saw a message from Maddie. She had written, "Wow, petty much? You could have at least kept the wine cooler subscription. Do you know how hard Mom cried?" As if my role in life was to bankroll her mother's tears. It was laughable that she expected me to feel guilty for taking back something I had paid for with my own hard-earned money. I stared at the message for a solid minute, not even angry, just stunned at the entitlement radiating off every word. A little later, Tyler called me to give me the full play-by-play of what had gone down at the reception. Apparently, guests kept asking Karen about the luxury gifts she had been bragging about for months. She tried to laugh it off at first, saying shipping delays or something along those lines, but people kept pressing, and eventually she cornered Dad in the middle of the reception. According to Tyler, she said loudly enough for people nearby to hear, "So your real daughter doesn't care about us?" And the entire room went silent. My dad's face apparently turned the exact shade of an overripe tomato. You could practically hear the champagne flute stop clinking. That was the moment the fairy tale bubble she had been floating in popped, and it was my father's worst nightmare. His perfect image cracked in front of people he wanted to impress. The fallout did not stop there. A few days later, I learned just how far my dad was willing to take his tantrum. He decided to call my actual workplace. Yes, my professional office where I have worked hard to build a career and reputation. He did not call my cell, which he still had access to at that point. He went straight for my company's front desk like it was 1998 and he was trying to page me out of algebra class. The receptionist told me later, in the kind of cautious tone you use when you are trying to explain a bizarre event without laughing, that a man claiming to be my father had left a voicemail saying his daughter had destroyed his wedding day. To say I was humiliated is an understatement. Imagine walking into a meeting only to have HR pull you aside because they got a voicemail from your father throwing a tantrum about a wedding you were not even invited to. They asked if I was safe at home, which was mortifying because now my colleagues in HR thought my family situation was some Lifetime movie scenario. I had to explain as calmly as possible that I was not in danger, that my father was just furious I had not bought him and his wife tens of thousands of dollars worth of gifts for a wedding I was explicitly excluded from. Try keeping a straight face while saying that out loud in a conference room. The absurdity of it all hit me later. My father is a grown man in his 50s, dialing up my workplace to complain that his adult daughter had ruined his big day by not showering him with presents. Who does that? Who treats a corporate voicemail system like their personal complaint box? I kept picturing him sitting at his desk, rehearsing his lines, pacing back and forth before deciding that, yes, the best course of action was to drag his daughter's name through the mud at her place of employment. If there were Olympic medals for public embarrassment, my dad would have taken gold for that performance. The moment HR let me go, I walked back to my desk with my head high, but inside I was boiling. It was the final straw. If he wanted to make my life difficult, I was not going to keep giving him easy access to me. I opened my phone, scrolled to his number, and without hesitation I blocked Dad's number after that. Money always tells the real story. For all of my dad and Karen's posturing about family, appearances and status, it came down to dollars and cents. Tyler filled me in on just how badly they had set themselves up for disaster. They had not just been casually expecting my gifts, they had literally rearranged their lives around them. They had cleared out space on the patio for the outdoor furniture set I had ordered, bragging to neighbors about the new resort-style lounge area they were going to unveil. They had told everyone at the wedding about the engraved watches, and made it sound like they were already practically wearing them. And the kicker? They had gone so far as to get rid of their old dining set because my $4,000 one was on the way. Except of course it never was because I had canceled it all. When nothing showed up they panicked. They tried to backtrack and return the old things they had sold off or donated, but by then it was too late. The old dining set was already gone, and the patio was nothing but bare concrete with a couple of sad plastic lawn chairs. They had counted their chickens before they hatched, and now they were staring at empty spaces that screamed, "We banked on someone else's money and lost." Tyler described it with a level of glee that made me realize he had been quietly rooting for me all along. Karen, of course, could not resist venting publicly. She took to Facebook, the digital stage for suburban melodrama, and started posting vague statuses about selfish people ruining family events. The comment section was a mix of her friends chiming in with "so sorry, you deserve better," and random acquaintances clearly trying to piece together the drama. She never used my name, but everyone who knew the dynamics could connect the dots. It was her way of trying to turn herself into a victim of my so-called selfishness, as though her assumption that I owed her tens of thousands in luxury goods was just normal family behavior. What really made me laugh was when she actually tried to guilt-trip my mom. Tyler told me that Karen called her up, all faux sweet at first, and then slid into saying that my mom should help make things right, because I had caused such damage. My mom let her talk for a minute before outright laughing and hanging up the phone. She then called me immediately and said she had not enjoyed a phone call that much in years. Hearing that my mom stood her ground like that gave me a wave of satisfaction I had not felt in a long time. Meanwhile, while they were spiraling, I was finally moving forward. I had taken $8,000 in cash and put it down on a condo of my own. It was not huge, but it was mine. No one else had a claim to it, no one else could decide I did not belong there. And every square foot represented my independence. I bought furniture secondhand, painted the walls myself, and for the first time, I could come home to a place where every decision was mine alone. I would sit on the floor with takeout cartons around me, sipping a glass of cheap wine, and feel more content than I ever had in the house I grew up in or the places I rented out of desperation. The irony was not lost on me. While my dad and Karen were scrambling to cover the holes left by their own assumptions, I was planting roots. They had lost several $1,000s trying to play host to a lifestyle they could not sustain without leeching off me, and I was finally enjoying stability. Watching Karen and Dad scramble while I finally had something that was mine felt like justice. The cracks started showing in their marriage faster than anyone expected. Tyler has always been my unofficial informant when it comes to the circus that is Dad and Karen's household, and this time he had a front row seat to the drama. Maddie, who never hesitates to stir the pot when it benefits her, apparently pulled Tyler aside one evening and complained that her mom was fuming non-stop about me. She said Karen blamed Dad for having a deadbeat daughter who doesn't respect family. That was her exact phrase, and hearing it secondhand made me laugh out loud. I am the deadbeat, according to the woman who married my father, and then tried to wring thousands of dollars out of me for her perfect Instagram-ready wedding. The irony was too thick to cut. But it did not stop there. Maddie said that Dad finally snapped back, telling Karen that she had been the one who insisted on uninviting me in the first place. He told her that if she had not pushed him to exclude me, none of the mess with the gifts would have happened. That accusation set off what Tyler described as an all-out war in their kitchen. By the time Thanksgiving rolled around, the resentment had been simmering for weeks, and the dinner table turned into a battleground. Tyler painted the scene for me in vivid detail. The turkey was barely carved when Karen decided to make another jab, slipping in some passive-aggressive remark about loyalty and respect. Dad shot back immediately, reminding everyone that she was the one who had demanded I stay away from the wedding. The tension boiled over into full-on shouting. Karen tried to paint herself as the victim, crying about how she was just trying to build a family, but Cole apparently had enough of it. He slammed his chair back, stormed out, and refused to come back in. Imagine being so committed to your victim narrative that you drive your own son out into the cold on Thanksgiving night. That was the moment, according to Tyler, when the rest of the family stopped even pretending the marriage was stable. While their house shook with yelling, mine stayed quiet and peaceful. I was sitting in my own condo, sipping coffee in a living room that belonged entirely to me, and feeling the sharp contrast. I had chosen a growing neighborhood when I bought the place, and it turned out to be the smartest financial decision I have ever made. My realtor told me recently that the market in my area is heating up fast, and if I wanted to sell within a year, I could make about $30,000 in profit. Just knowing that made me feel like I had finally broken the cycle. Instead of throwing my money away on gifts designed to impress people who would never accept me, I had invested in something tangible, something secure. Every time I sit back on my couch, coffee in hand, and look around at the walls I painted and the furniture I picked, I think about how close I came to draining my savings on people who only saw me as an accessory to their image. I traded being their doormat for financial independence, and it feels better than I ever imagined. Now, whenever the thought crosses my mind, it is impossible not to shake my head at the absurdity of it all. I came within inches of spending $18,000 on gifts for people who never saw me as family. This morning I got one last call from Dad. I didn't answer, but the voicemail was different. He said, "Emily, I made a mistake. Karen and I are separating. I should have stood up for you. Please, I don't want to lose you too." His voice cracked. For the first time in years he sounded small. It hit me harder than I expected. For so long I've carried the weight of his absence, of his silence, of his choices that placed Karen above me. And now, after all these years, the man who taught me to bake my favorite chocolate cake, who cheered the loudest at my high school recitals, who disappeared when it mattered most, sounded vulnerable, human, fragile. I didn't know what to do with it. Part of me wants to say it's too late. Part of me wonders if he's finally realized what he threw away. The truth is, the moment I canceled those $18,000, it wasn't about money. It was about claiming agency, about refusing to be the invisible daughter in a house that celebrated everyone but me. After that, the invitations stopped coming. The calls slowed. The passive-aggressive birthday cards dwindled. And for the first time, silence wasn't suffocating. It was freeing. That choice showed me their true colors. My father, too afraid to confront his mistakes, hiding behind convenience and a second family. Karen, who thrived in the chaos of exclusion. And everyone else, relatives and friends, who lined up politely on her side, as if loyalty could be measured in champagne toasts and polite nods. Meanwhile, my life blossomed quietly without fanfare or approval. My apartment, though small, smelled like freshly ground coffee and lavender. My plants thrived despite my tendency to overwater them. I surrounded myself with friends who saw me, who cheered when I made bold decisions, who reminded me that love and recognition didn't have to be conditional or transactional. I started writing again, pouring into pages the frustrations, triumphs, and quiet victories I never shared at home. I even signed up for a pottery class, something my younger self had wanted desperately but had never dared to pursue. Every small success, every serene evening, felt like a brick in the foundation of my independence. Hearing Dad's voice today, raw and apologetic, stirred a strange cocktail of emotions. Resentment, longing, curiosity, and the faintest glimmer of hope. His words were an admission, an acknowledgement of past failures, but the void of years can't be erased with a voicemail. I've spent countless nights replaying moments that weren't his fault or mine, analyzing whether the fracture in our relationship was reparable. The answer is complicated. His separation from Karen changes the dynamics entirely. It might open doors that were firmly shut, but it might also reveal truths I'm not ready to face. I spent the morning pacing my living room, phone in hand, heart thundering. Each time I imagined calling back, I pictured the awkward tension, the words unsaid, the need to balance forgiveness with self-preservation. I remember the years when I waited for a small sign, a simple gesture that he had my back. Today, I understand that holding on to the hurt has protected me more than clinging to hope ever could. But there's a new thread in my chest, a mix of curiosity and unresolved attachment. Part of me wonders if he's learned the hard way that children aren't interchangeable, that loyalty can't be coerced, and that absence leaves a lasting mark. For hours, I sifted through memories. Birthdays spent alone, summer vacations I planned with friends because family trips were never offered to me. The whispered words of a father too polite to admit favoritism. I thought about Karen, her smug little victories, the parties she forced me to witness from the sidelines. And I thought about myself, the quiet rebellion of canceling gifts, the deliberate step away from a household that never truly included me. Every recollection reinforced a truth I'd always known but now embraced fully. My life's value isn't tied to their approval. My happiness is a currency I mint for myself. By afternoon I decided to write. Not an email, not a message, but a letter that I may or may not send. I wrote about everything. The loneliness, the frustration, the sharp sting of being overlooked, and the pride in my own resilience. I described the apartment that smelled of coffee and lavender, the friends who became chosen family, the victories big and small that were mine alone. I poured into words the clarity I'd finally achieved, the peace I cultivated, the love I nurtured independently, and the strength I discovered in standing apart. This voicemail, while unexpected, crystallized one undeniable reality. The house they occupy, riddled with arguments and broken promises, could never give me what I've built quietly for myself. And that's the real gift. The $18,000 worth of gifts, the years of silent pleading, the aching hope for validation. They all led me here, to a life that feels whole without requiring permission. I'm not naive. I know reconnecting with Dad might come with messy compromises. But for now, I sit with the understanding that I have a choice. I can answer or not, I can engage or keep walking. Either way, I have already won something more permanent than any family reunion or apology. Peace. And for the first time in years I feel unshakable in it.